Chapter 5. 2 words that should never be in the same sentence. I thought that was the end of it. Seeing the ghost of Mr. Klutz had to be just a once-in-a-lifetime bad dream. Nothing like that could ever happen again. But then something else weird happened. The clock struck 11, and I thought I should really get myself a clock. Just as I was falling back asleep, I heard another spooky voice. AJ, AJ, AJ. When I opened my eyes, I saw that there were 2 ghosts floating over my bed. Ah! I screamed. The ghosts put their fingers up to their lips. Shh, they whispered. Help! I shouted, security, there's somebody in my room. Shh. What are you doing in my bedroom? I asked. How did you get in here? Isn't this breaking and entering? The words "read like crazy" were on the ghost's shirt, and the ghosts were each carrying a big cardboard box. I looked at the ghosts more closely. They looked a lot like Mr. Mackey, our reading specialist, and Mrs. Rupee, our librarian. Mrs. Rupee? I called out. Mr. Mackey? Never heard of those people, said the ghost that looked like Mrs. Rupee. We are the ghosts of summer reading. What? Summer and reading are 2 words that should never be in the same sentence. That's the first rule of being a kid. I never heard of the ghosts of summer reading, I said. It's a thing, said Mr. Mackey. You 2 look just like Mr. Mackey and Mrs. Rupee from my school. We get that all the time, said the ghost of Mr. Mackey. We brought you some presents, AJ, said the ghost of Mrs. Rupee. Presents? I like getting presents. Maybe these weren't bad ghosts. I wondered what was in the boxes that they were carrying. The ghost floated down and put them on the edge of my bed. Is there a new video game system in there? I asked excitedly. Is it a new skateboard? No, said Mrs. Mackey. We brought you some books. Bet you didn't see that coming. What? Books? I don't like books. I don't even know why you're reading this one. Books are boring. Reading is boring. I don't like to read, I told the 2 ghosts. They let out eerie, cackling laughs as they opened the boxes. That's too bad, said Mr. Mackey, pulling out a thick book and handing it to me, because this summer your assignment will be to read the complete works of William Shakespeare. No! I shouted, covering my ears. Not Shakespeare, he's the most boring of all. Mrs. Rupee pulled out a fat book out of her box. This is the first book of a 20-book encyclopedia, she told me. You'll have to read all 20 pages. No! I screamed at her. Not an encyclopedia! There was nothing I could do. They were already pulling more books out of their boxes. Fiction, nonfiction, chapter books, non-chapter books, picture books, non-picture books. It was horrible. I wanted to run away to Antarctica and live with the penguins. And after that, just for fun, said Mr. Mackey, we're going to have you read a complete collection of all the books that have won the Newbery Medal. No, not the Newbery books! I screamed, anything but them. I'll be bored to death. Oh, and by the way, said Mr. Mackey, there will be a test on all these books on the first day of school in September. No, no, no! I shouted. I hate reading and I hate tests. Get out of my bedroom. Have a good summer reading, said Mrs. Rupee. The 2 of them broke into another eerie, cackling laugh as they flew through the window. I could hear them chanting I before E except after C. Or when sounding like A as in neighborhood and way. I before E except after C. I lay my head back on the pillow. It was another terrible dream. No. Not a dream. It was a nightmare. This was the worst thing to happen since National Poetry Month. When would I wake up from this awful night? I couldn't wait for morning to come. Somehow I managed to fall back asleep, but I was tossing and turning the whole time.